My name's Tina Sanchez. I'm a third-year missionary with Focus, a team director at the University of Texas in Austin, and I've been there serving at UT for all 3 years with Focus.
And how big is Focus at UT?
We have about 125 student leaders that are students in discipleship and about 300 students in Bible study. And there's about 50,000 students on campus and 5 missionaries.
So you're in charge of the whole Focus outreach at UT?
Yes, that's correct. It's pretty easy. We each have 10,000 students that we try to evangelize each day to, and we seem to get it done. So, no, the Lord is really faithful, and the fruit there of the students that have given their lives to be on mission with us is really where the fruit comes in, who have faithfully said yes to devoting their life to Jesus in prayer.
Can you tell us about some of the organizational, how does that work? You meet very frequently with the missionaries, and tell us about that side of it.
With my team or my students?
With your team.
Okay. Yeah, so each of my teammates, the way that I approach my relationship with them is the same way I approach it with a disciple. So really wanting to mentor my teammates who are younger missionaries, they're second and first year missionaries, in the everyday life of how to evangelize and how to lead. And so I get to spend, I have a meeting each week with each of them individually, and then we have a team meeting together. And then throughout our week, we have certain team activities or responsibilities that we get to do together. So we're not only trying to just be 5 coworkers who exist well, but we're actually trying to cultivate a family life and a team life within our family on campus. And in the last 2 years of being the director, I've coached 6 different missionaries, and a great joy just to be able to work with these men and women who are very different and come from very different backgrounds and have different skill sets, and many are far above and beyond my even leadership skills, and so that's very humbling to be leading people who are really leading me. But it's a great joy to work with these men and women in their different outreach events or outreach opportunities, as well as with Varsity Catholic, so coaching them how to outreach to athletes, and with the Greek ministries, the fraternities and sororities on campus.
And you meet a lot with the student leaders?
Yes, I actually have 8 women that I meet with in discipleship weekly. And from those 8 women come another about 25 under them who are in my direct chain, my lineage of discipleship. So it's getting to work with those women and coach them on how to not only know Christ personally, but to also invite and walk with these other girls in their Bible studies, in their dorms, and coming to know Christ that way.
Do you all speak a lot about prudence and their own mentoring and discipling people? I would think that would be a very tricky line to walk.
Yeah. I think the temptation in our culture, and especially at UT, which is an amazing academic institution, the students have to be at the top of their class in high school to be there. So they're really challenged, and they're fighting for their academics, and they're also fighting for their faith. When they apply themselves to Christ, it's 100% commitment. But those students, I think, especially people who've been very involved, have the desire to also be very involved in their faith. And some of our students, we have to teach them, you're a student first, and you can bring Christ into that, but you can't neglect your studies in order just to try to spend your time with people at all times doing everything, neglecting your schoolwork.
And do the students they disciple, do they rely on them pretty heavily for advice or guidance?
That kind of depends. I think that comes with the role of discipleship and really making clear boundaries that discipleship isn't being a Christian counselor. And so certainly there's a lot of pressures on college students, a lot of depression, a lot of mental illness. I've had many girls who have struggled with suicidal thoughts, who recently a girl that I was working with found herself in a crisis pregnancy. And I think the great joy of that is we get to walk with them in their faith, but direct them to those people in a little bit more professional settings for those kinds of things. But on the everyday life, in the same way that you would rely on a friend and rely on those older spiritual mentors to guide you, we have the opportunity to get to do that on campus. And those students who are being formed in virtue, who are giving themselves to their prayer daily, and who are allowing the Lord to really chisel away at their heart, are getting to do the same thing.
What is it like being there at UT Austin? It's known for Austin itself, right? For its liberal, secular culture. What challenges have you faced, and how have you tried to overcome them?
Yeah, I think certainly the culture of Austin the motto is keep Austin weird. So everywhere you go, people want to be different. They want to be weird. They want to do something that's not in the normal, and that's out of the ordinary, which is great for us because as Catholic missionaries in the city, we are weird and we are doing something that is not normal. But I think what you will find on campus, and just my experience talking to students, is just a lack of apathy or just wanting to pretend that the realms of the spiritual life don't exist. And saying, if I don't believe in that, that doesn't exist, that part of my life is not there. I don't have to think about the consequences of my actions or heaven or hell. It's just awakening that in the lives of people, that they really are living in a spiritual battle, that they have to choose, and that they have the option to choose, and they've been given the choice of love and the choice of freedom. Presenting that to people who have more of a secular worldview often rocks their world. They think we're a little crazy. They think we're a little weird. But it's great to be able to share that to people who aren't hearing that in their classes at all.
And your own personal story, you had a powerful experience at World Youth Day in Madrid. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to World Youth Day in Madrid the summer before my senior year, and it was about a 3-week pilgrimage, and I was going just really excited to be in Europe and really not thinking anything much. I remember very clearly, it was the 3rd day we were there. I was praying in the chapel, and the Lord spoke to me, and he said, "Tina, you want to give me your life, and yet you have not given me your heart." And up until this point in college, I had done really well living the life of, I was really involved with the party scene. All of my roommates were Catholic, but none of them attended Mass. None of them were practicing their faith. And it was just this like riveting call from the Lord to really surrender that, the ways that I was just so unhappy in that. And getting the opportunity to not only be with missionaries, but also to be with students we had about half our group was international college students. And they were fighting to learn the faith, to bring that back to their country. These women from Malaysia, there were 5 women from 5 different colleges. And they said, we're some of the only Catholic people at our university, and we're here to understand the gospel and to bring that back. And I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, I have everything at my fingertips at UConn. I have the witness of missionaries. I have a Newman Center that's thriving. I have priests, and these women have nothing, and they're trying to be missionaries. And it was just that call from the Lord, very clear. That was this, desire for adventure that he called me into, and here I am, almost 5 years later, and thinking, oh my gosh, Lord, what have you done to my life? You have rocked my world.
It seems like that's always maybe a daily struggle for us to be all in, to give our heart to the Lord. Can you talk about that? Because you were at World Youth Day, you were with Focus Missionaries, but you felt like there's a deeper, bigger step you needed to take. Can you talk a little bit more about that transition? How is that done? Is it just the decision?
Yeah, it was, I think as we were there for 3 weeks, I was that call came very early in the trip, and I had time to really pray through that and to kind of settle in. I felt like St. Paul when after his conversion, he said the scales fell off his eyes, he was blinded. I very much felt like that. I felt like I could see my sin and my relationships differently for the first time in my life. And very practically, it was just turning away from the things that were leading me to sin. It was relationships. It was parties with my roommates. It was boys that I was hanging out with that were influencing me, and really kind of inviting me into sin and to turn away from that. It was to willingly choose to go pray, to choose every day, I'm going to go to the chapel because I desire to know the Lord more today than I did yesterday. I desire for him to transform my heart today.
What do you think was the biggest source of grace for you, for that avenue of grace to transform your heart? Was it the rosary or Mass?
I think it was daily Mass. I'd never, my senior year of college, I started going to daily Mass. And up until then, I thought the only people that went to daily Mass were 85-year-old grandmas who had nothing better to do, because no one went to daily Mass at college. I mean, that's a little bit weird, right? And here I am as a missionary going to daily Mass, and I think it's the greatest thing ever. But when I came home from World Youth Day, I had gone to Mass every day for 3 weeks straight, and I'd pray a holy hour every single day. And that life of prayer totally came into my life my senior year. And that was a very challenging time. I was beginning student teaching, so my schedule was overloaded beyond belief. And I still made a commitment every day to go pray a holy hour and to try to get to Mass. And I think that's really what changed that. When we give the Lord that time, he's going to do amazing things if we give him 2 minutes a day. But if we give him an hour a day, oh my gosh, the grace that will come from that.
And the missionaries are asked to do that, right? A holy hour every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, I think we would die if we weren't praying that much. And yeah, I was laughing because some days we will pray like 6 hours a day between your rosary, your holy hour, daily mass. Maybe there's an extra hour of prayer our team will do for intercessory prayer. And then so much of my discipleship time is spending with girls, teaching them how to pray, taking them to the chapel, studying scripture, doing Lectio Divina or Ignatian prayer together. And it was typically on Wednesdays, my first year, I would pray on average about 6 hours because of all the things happened to overload themselves on the same day. But what a joy that was just to immerse myself in that.
You said ordination prayer? What is that?
Oh, Ignatian prayer.
Oh, Ignatian.
Yes, St. Ignatius of Loyola. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
don't worry, we're not ordaining each other.
And what do you tell young people about Eucharistic adoration? What do you recommend, like how they are to spend that time? What are they supposed to do when they go to the chapel?
Yeah, I think where people struggle is they fail to be free in prayer. So often we think prayer has to be rigid, regimented, Our Fathers, Hail Marys, and that might be the only way we know to pray. But when I walk into adoration, I talk to Christ as my friend. I talk to Jesus as I would talk to my friend, just telling him the joys of my day, the struggles of my day, thanking him, asking him, and then just sitting as you would sit with any other friend to get to know them and getting to know their life. I just will open the Bible, I'll open the Gospels typically, and I'll read about Jesus' life, and I'll imagine he's sitting in front of me. Depends on where we are in Scripture, if we're on the Sea of Galilee or if we're in Bethlehem, just getting to know who he is. And I just imagine his facial expressions. I imagine how his voice sounds. And I think really entering into the life of Christ, we have to know him as a friend and know him personally and know him intimately. And we can't be afraid to do that.
All right, well, thank you so much.